And welcome to the JAMEEL RAWLS show. And today what I'm going to be going over is something called pyrokinesis. Basically, it's the psychoenergetic ability of an individual to start objects or some sort of material particle on fire. And this is done, through the energetic flow of what's known as chi energy, or the Japanese call it ki energy. And a lot of people have heard of this. They've heard of it through spontaneous human combustion, or perhaps they heard of it through films like the movie Firestarter with Drew Barrymore. And a lot of people, for one reason or another, seem to think that this is hocus pocus and there's nothing to it. Well, millions and millions and millions of dollars have been spent by governments around the world studying this phenomena. And nobody would spend that much money on a subject unless there was something to it. Recently, a friend of mine said, "Hey, I heard you talking about extrasensory perception, retrocognition, and all the different sub projects that came along with the experimentation by Stanford University and Stanford Research on paranormal activity." And they sent me a videotape of some qigong masters who were using pyrokinesis, and this was well documented going back to the 70s and 80s, and it made me remember a magnificent researcher named Larissa Vilenskaya, who very few people are not familiar with her, but she is well documented by the world government for her psychic abilities and different, uh, energetic phenomena that she's displayed in her work over the years. It appears she has passed. She's deceased now, but there are numerous documents online you can read and educate yourself on the subject. Now, the Qigong masters are very, I'd say, very mystical in their approach. They don't tell Westerners about their traditions and how they use this ability, but in the West, it's become well documented. So there was I was listening to Larissa Vilenskaya talk about fire walking and the secrets of fire walking, and I was reading a document that was released by the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and lo and behold, the Russians and the United States military were like taking Larissa Vilenskaya very seriously. Um, so this document was confidential, but it was proved for release in 2004. Uh, this is on all kinds of PDFs throughout the internet. This is like a CIA PDF right here, and it talks about Soviet and Czechoslovakian parapsychology research prepared by the United States Army Medical Intelligence Information Agency, Office of the Surgeon General, Medical Intelligence. And I'm going to read a brief summary. When you look at the docket and the sections, it goes from extrasensory perception to telepathy, energy transfer, classical theories and experiments, current Soviet Czech theories and research objectives, telepathic behavior modification, psychotronic generator research, out-of-body phenomena, remote viewing, trends and forecast. This gets into the USSR affiliation. This was from 1975, so this is during the Cold War. But this is a brief summary right here. It says, during the past 25 years, Soviet and Czechoslovakian parapsychologists have reported that paranormal phenomena such as extrasensory perception, ESP, telepathy, psychokinesis have been demonstrated under rigorously controlled laboratory conditions. Skeptics in both nations have attacked the study of such phenomena on both scientific and political ideological grounds. Criticism based on political ideology has stemmed from the fact that much past research has been non-materialistic in the sense that results have not been reported in terms of contemporary conventional science. Thus, the critics feel that parapsychology has fostered continued belief in mysticism, occultism, and religion. In order to rebut the skeptics' contentions that psychic phenomena do not fit accepted scientific and political thought, Soviet and Czech scientists now argue that there are many well-established facts which remain as anomalous to the scientific paradigms as extrasensory perception. ESP refers to information which is not received via the usual senses, and as a general term includes telepathy, the Soviet biocommunication, and psychokinesis, or PK, the Soviet bioenergetics. Communist parapsychologists argue that after decades of research, conventional science still has no satisfactory neuropsychological explanation of memory, nor is there any appropriate model for explaining how raw data impinging on man's senses are transformed into a conscious experience. They also point to the dematerialized character of contemporary physics, a science filled with such bizarre components as advanced potential waves of electrons perceived before they are generated, tunneling effects, electrons penetrating barriers by which the laws of probability should be impenetrable, and tachyons, particles traveling faster than light, and thus implying the possibility of backward flow of time. In short, they conclude that hard science no longer offers a secure rationale for the denial of the possibility of any non-causal event. And the tachyon particle is very interesting. That gets back in the 1960s. The tachyon particle is known as the metaparticle. And basically, this gets into recently a lot of the research I've done concerning channeling, where you can have an individual who goes into a church and prays, and they say, I got an answer from my God within 2 weeks. I got an answer right away. Channelers go into a psychic deep meditation, much like the Qigong masters who use the pyrokinesis, go into a meditation, and they explain that's how they get the pyrokinetic abilities. But people who channel, they go into some sort of deep meditation, and they get psychic information. And the way they explain it, it really feels as if this is true, that the psychic telepathic signal is faster than the speed of light. I'll put up a link for this. This is unclassified information from the government. This is going back to 1975, and this is a fascinating document because it deals with parapsychological studies from both the Soviet world and the United States of America, and this gets into levitation, stigmata. It's so funny. It's like people go watch Hollywood movies about this sort of thing, and then they sit back and pretend like there's nothing to it. Like if you were to say to somebody, oh my God, there's paperwork and scientific ability on pyrokinesis or whatever like that, most people would not take it literal, and people are just so unread. They have no idea in the world how many millions of dollars have been put into these sorts of projects. And these are forensic psychological experts who analyze this stuff. These aren't just weird hippies, that grew up in the 60s taking acid. These are experts in psychological behavior and paranormal phenomena. Like these guys got PhDs going back decades. And this is Pyrokinesis on the JAMEEL RAWLS Show.